Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is AES and welcome to my YouTube channel. Throughout the months of May and June, the gaming landscape changes on a yearly basis. Video game companies directly and indirectly expand upon or reveal upcoming titles that will be released in the near or far future. All of these announcements used to be collected and presented under one roof in an event that was called E3. Nowadays, several showcases take center stage and talk about all types of games, whether they are AAA, indies, or anything in between. Whether it is claimed in a serious tone or in a way that is designed to bring out the toxicity of fellow gamers, the claim that gaming is dry has never been factually true, and these yearly events around this time of the year are proof of it. As far as 2026 is concerned, the amount of interesting, unique, and fun video games that have been showcased in the span of 2 weeks is insane. There are also upcoming titles such as GTA 6 and Pokemon Wins that have not made their presence known in these showcases, yet the hype cannot be any more prominent from fans of each of these respective series. In today's video, I will talk about 85 video games that piqued my interest in one way or another. None of them are guaranteed purchases, but one or more aspects of their shown footage encourage me to nod in approval. Before we begin, let us go over some ground rules. First, the ranking is based on my level of excitement. It does not equate to number 1 being definitively better than number 50. Secondly, I will include the release date and platforms that were advertised for each pick during the showcases. Please take them with a grain of salt, as video game delays are all too common in today's age. Lastly, this list is entirely subjective. If you have a game that is not on the list and excites you, that is cool. Please share them in the comment section and help me grow the list even further. Without further ado, let's talk about my top 85 most anticipated video games from the past 2 weeks of showcases. Number 85, Void Martyrs. One of the biggest reasons as to why horror games worked so well in the past revolves around a single word: restriction. Restrictive gameplay, restrictive camera, restrictive resources. Any of those features could have contributed to the success of popular franchises, such as Alone in the Dark, Resident Evil, or Silent Hill. Void Martyrs is another scary experience that may not live to the standards that were set by the aforementioned classic series, but it shares their implementation of restrictive gameplay. In the case of Void Martyrs, it is the lighting. The top-down video game resembles 2010's Dead Nation, but the absence of lighting adds a much more prominent fear factor than 2010's title. You never know what will wait around the corner unless you use your flashlight to point in a certain direction, and take a chance while encountering terrifying foes. Who knows, Void Martyrs can surprise us all with its close launch. Void Martyrs will be released on July 28, 2026, exclusively on PC. Number 84, War Dogs. I often reminisce about those multiplayer experiences that either promised and failed, or succeeded in delivering large-scale battles. If you are a teenager back in the era of the PlayStation 3, you could potentially remember the excitement that was derived from 2010's MAG. 256 players simultaneously, it was unheard of. When I first encountered War Dogs, it brought me back to the good old days of watching the latest trailer for MAG and giddy up in anticipation for what could have truly been a next-generation experience. If I was a massive fan of multiplayer games, War Dogs would be much higher on this list. However, I'm one of those players that will check out the multiplayer experience for at most 1 month and go on about my business. Could War Dogs be the exception to the rule? Only time will tell. War Dogs will be released this summer in early access, exclusively on PC. Number 83, Vivarium. One of the activities that I wanted to experience on my trip to Japan is visiting the Ghibli Museum. I have not watched most of the studio's films, but I always adored the visual art style. I am making it my mission to watch the entirety of their film catalog by the end of 2026. I'm bringing up a non-gaming topic because of the next game on the list, Vivarium. At its core, it does not look like a memorable video game. The gameplay appears to be simplistic, and the focus is clearly on the storytelling. However, I'm looking forward to playing Vivarium because of its visual presentation. It looks like the next flick from Studio Ghibli. It may not be enough of a reason for you to try out the title, but it satisfies all of my needs. Vivarium will be released next year for the Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 82, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Arguably the most controversial take of the list. It is not due to the game in question, it is because of its placement. Allow me to explain myself. I have never been a fan of The Legend of Zelda. I tested my interest in the series with Triforce Heroes, A Link to the Past, and Breath of the Wild. None of them convinced me to become a fan of Link's numerous adventures. In that case, why did I include the remake of Ocarina of Time on my list? The answer is twofold. On one hand, I never played Ocarina of Time, and I heard from multiple people that it is the best video game of the franchise. On the other hand, I'm hoping that the remake will modernize itself enough to the point that it will serve as a reason for me to purchase a Nintendo Switch 2 console. If I play the game and I'm having a miserable time with it, it will be the deciding factor as to whether or not The Legend of Zelda is or can be my cup of tea. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time remake will be released later this year, exclusively on the Nintendo Switch 2. Number 81, Cordura. Imagine that you and 3 of your friends enter a haunted house in search of an entity that can take the form of other living beings. You traverse the house and at one point, you lose your pals and end up being alone. All of a sudden, you see one of your friends in the hallway. He is not moving. At that moment, there's only one question that comes to mind. Is he your friend, or is it a shape-shifting creature? This core concept is the premise of Cordura, which could result in one of the best multiplayer experiences within the horror genre. Cordura does not have a current release date, and it is scheduled to be playable on the PlayStation 5 and PC. Number 80, Distant Shore, Britannia. At first, I did not think much about Distant Shore, Britannia. However, the presenter of the recent footage made a comment that raised my eyebrow. According to the presenter, this game is a mixture of Valve's Half-Life and Portal with Electronic Arts' Mirror's Edge. It is all I needed to hear to add the title to my list of the most anticipated video games from the past 2 weeks' worth of showcases. Could it live up to the hype of any of the aforementioned pre-established franchises? I'm not sure. I will keep you informed when it becomes available to the public. Distant Shore, Britannia does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable exclusively on PC. Number 79, Fishbowl. The most important aspect of a video game for me is its narrative. Any given title can have the most simplistic visual art style, gameplay mechanics, and soundtrack. If the plot hits a home run, I'm willing to give it a fair shake. Fishbowl is a title that has been out in the wild since April and completely avoided my radar. Needless to say, its trailer during one of the showcases displayed a series of reviews that claimed the video game has a top-tier storyline. I have played games in the past like To the Moon that did not impress me with their trailers, but engrossed me with their moving stories. I'm waiting for a sale, but Fishbowl could serve as evidence to the following quote: "Do not judge a book by its cover." Fishbowl is currently available on the PlayStation 5 and PC. Number 78, Star Trek: Shadow Frontier. There are certain genres that do not naturally attach themselves to specific IPs. Can you imagine a strategy-based soccer game? Can you visualize a rhythm-based Call of Duty title? These two examples are not outside of the realm of possibility, but their announcements would force me to scratch my head in bewilderment. When I think about Star Trek, I can picture the series' depiction within the shooting, strategy, and narrative-based genres. Nevertheless, Star Trek: Shadow Frontier aims to take the franchise in a different direction. In other words, the game is aimed to appease fans of the horror genre. Although no gameplay was shown during the reveal, the potential is quite high, especially with the involvement of alien species and their respective abilities. I will cross my fingers in the hopes that the hesitant first impression will transform into a massive success. Star Trek: Shadow Frontier will be released next year for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Number 77, The Land Forgotten. Similar to the previously discussed Vivarium, The Land Forgotten instantly caught my interest with its visuals. Unlike Vivarium, The Land Forgotten intertwines incredible animations with the mystery of foreign languages, in an effort to provide mesmerizing incentives for exploration. I have no idea what will be the ins and outs of its plot, but I'm ready to dive into unknown territories and discover the power of unfamiliar linguistics on the human mind. The Land Forgotten does not have a current release date, and it is scheduled to be playable exclusively on PC. Number 76, Rain 98. Ever since I went to Japan, I have been infatuated with anything that originated in the Asian country. I watch anime on a regular basis, eat Japanese food on a regular basis, and I'm slowly but surely learning how to speak Japanese. With that being said, a Japanese narrative-centric video game lit green lights from the very beginning of Rain 98's trailer. It seems to have a mystery tale to tell its audience, and I'm 100% on board. Rain 98 will be released this year exclusively on PC. Number 75, Nocturne. As you will notice in my next YouTube project, I'm a massive fan of rhythm-based video games. The most unique entry in the genre that I have ever played is 2021's Everhood. Take the unique art style of 2015's Undertale and mix it with rhythm-based mechanics. It's one of my favorite video games of all time, and Nocturne looks to mimic the same flair that was fully displayed in Everhood. It is a full-blown role-playing title, but the combat system is entirely based on rhythms. If the plot is as impressive as the fusion of the role-playing and rhythm genres, we are in for a treat. Nocturne will be released on June 30th, 2026, exclusively on PC. Number 74, Slave Blade. If you grew up in the 90s, one of the anime television shows that you may have watched is Beyblade. The core concept is brilliant. You use a mechanical device to release a dreidel, and your goal is to either destroy the opponent's dreidel or halt its movement. However, each dreidel has a specific monster it can summon and cast different abilities. I lost track of the lore after a while, but I had a wonderful time with Beyblade, and I'm counting the days until we receive a proper modern video game about the television show. In the meantime, Slave Blade can surely hold me over. It features the dreidel versus dreidel combat, but it incorporates roguelike elements where you upgrade your device after each battle and try to reach the top of the mountain. I could be wrong about my analysis, but it can be a sleeper hit if I'm right on the money. Slave Blade does not have a current release date, and it is scheduled to be playable exclusively on PC. Number 73, Murders on the Yangtze River. Any fan of murder mystery films should check out 2017's Murder on the Orient Express. The cast is fantastic, the pacing is superb, and the narrative is engaging from start to finish. Murders on the Yangtze River offers the same vibe as 2017's film, but it's much more interactive due to its existence as a video game. There are very few details on the story, but the newest trailer presents a hypothetical situation where the main detective is apparently the villain. I'm invested in seeing his journey through its conclusion and discovering whether or not my prediction comes true. Murders on the Yangtze River is currently available on PC, Mac, and mobile devices, and it will be released in the hopeful near future for the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. Number 72, The Boys Trigger Warning. The Boys television show wrapped up in May of 2026. Despite the controversial finale, it's one of my favorite superhero television shows. Every episode has its fair share of humor, action sequences, and shocking moments, as the tale follows the anti-hero Butcher on his quest to rid the world of heroes and villains, and more specifically, the antagonist of the series, Homelander. Fast track to June 12, 2026, and a virtual reality experience that takes place in the same universe as The Boys is released, prompting me to add it to my list without a second thought. You're placed in the shoes of a new character who joins the well-known rebels like Mother's Milk and Kimiko on their quest to quote-unquote stick it to Vought and Homelander's team. I will play it sooner rather than later, and report if The Boys Trigger Warning is a good opportunity to become an official member of Butcher's crew. The Boys Trigger Warning is currently available on the Meta Quest 3, Meta Quest 3S, and the PlayStation VR 2. Number 71, Lava Loop. If you owned a PlayStation Portable back in the mid-2000s, one of the more notable games on the platform is the Patapon series. Another rhythm-based experience, you lead a series of characters from one end of the level to another, while executing combat maneuvers to the beat of the drum. The awesome reference is used primarily to shout out Lava Loop, which looks to follow in Patapon's footsteps. Nevertheless, there are two primary differences. On one hand, you're in control of a single character. On the other hand, there are moments in the title where you can pause the game and upgrade your character, whether we're talking about new moves or upgraded stats. Lava Loop seems to be my type of video game. Lava Loop does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be played exclusively on PC. Number 70, Knuckle Paradise. One of the games that took many hours from my free time is Diablo 3. The addictive gameplay, the loot system, and the element of procedurally generated levels resulted in a product that never felt tedious. Knuckle Paradise does not have the loot system and the element of randomness. According to the trailer, however, it has the addictive gameplay mechanics in spades. The combat system looks like a lot of fun, and the ability to unlock further moves as you progress through the levels will enhance the quality of the system. I only hope that Knuckle Paradise will spend the same amount of time on a diverse quantity of enemies as it did on the quality of its other elements. Knuckle Paradise does not have a current release date, and it is scheduled to be playable exclusively on PC. Number 69, Graft. I will keep this pick short and sweet as it is very similar to another title that we previously discussed on this list. Graft appears to be identical to Void Martyrs in a sense that it's a science fiction, top-down shooter featuring incredibly creepy monsters. With that being said, it takes the experience a couple of notches above the standards that were set by Void Martyrs by implementing much improved visuals and a set of characters that remind me of the robot and predator duo in Predator Badlands. Graft does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable exclusively on PC. Number 68, Blocks for Babies. If you have never played 2018's Tetris Effect, you most certainly must give it a whirl. Have you been searching for a video game that will help you relax after a stressful day? Tetris Effect is the game for you. Blocks for Babies is another Tetris title, but it has a gameplay mechanic that I have never seen in a Tetris game. While you are stacking up the blocks in your favor, you can press a button and transform the perspective into one that resembles old school Doom or Wolfenstein. At that point, you shoot the blocks with your weapon, and it's a way to clear the blocks that are more troublesome than they need to be. Tetris games have been slandered due to the repetitive nature of the gameplay mechanics. Well, Blocks for Babies breaks the cycle. Blocks for Babies will be released this year exclusively on PC. Number 67, Polyfighter. When you talk about roguelike experiences, the majority of the popular selection of games focus on the action genre. Whether we are discussing Hades 2 or Dead Cells, most of the worthwhile roguelike video games ask you to slowly build up your character and fight off enemies that come in all shapes and sizes. Polyfighter is different, and quite frankly, it's a one-of-a-kind game. Unlike most roguelike games, Polyfighter is a roguelike title that places itself within the fighting genre. Imagine the ladders that are present in typical Mortal Kombat titles. After every bout though, you have a chance to upgrade your character. Once you die, it's game over, and you start from the beginning. I've never seen a roguelike fighting game, which is why I had no choice but to add Polyfighter to this list. Polyfighter does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable exclusively on PC. Number 66, Kick. Whereas Polyfighter is an intense experience that requires you to be on your A game, Kick is a more chill journey that tasks you with a single objective: traverse from one end of the level to the next with your trusty soccer ball. Although it's not the only soccer video game that we will see on this list, Kick appears to be a video game that disguises its storytelling with the simple action of kicking a soccer ball, and it will utilize its environmental storytelling to explore the simplicity of life. It could be that I'm reading a bit too much into the game, but my hope is quite solid. Kick will be released on July 30th, 2026, exclusively on PC. Number 65, Flip Flop Fury. If you lived in a Hispanic household or you're familiar with the Hispanic culture, there's one rule that you know by heart: never underestimate the power of La Chancla, which in English translates to flip-flop. The core concept of Flip Flop Fury is simple: chuck the flip-flop and navigate it to its destination. It's ridiculous, it does not take itself seriously, and I love the reveal trailer as a result. It will be a one and done experience for me, as today's generation of gamers like to use it as a description for many video games, but I'm sure that I will enjoy my time with it. Flip Flop Fury does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable exclusively on PC. Number 64, Am I Nima? Imagine that you scheduled the hangout with your friend. Unfortunately, you have to cancel the plan. You call your friend to break the news. How would you do it if you were happy? How would you do it if you were angry? How would you do it if you were depressed? I bet all three paths would yield different conversations from one another. The unique emotion-focused human interaction is exactly why Am I Nima captivated me so much. As you interact with the characters in the game, you must choose the best dialogue choice, which is based on your emotions and the context of the conversation. Furthermore, the ending of the trailer adds a spice of horror, further increasing my level of excitement for the title. With the release date in October, we may have a surprising hit on our hands. Am I Nima will be released on October 8th, 2026, exclusively on PC. Number 63, Don't Fret. A horror experience that utilizes music theory as a fear factor? Call me intrigued. The trailer does not do the best job when it comes to conveying how the plot will play out, but I cannot lie, I nodded in content when the camera panned to a puzzle that used musical chords like E major. As a wannabe musician myself, the title receives 2 thumbs up from yours truly. I will wait for the reviews, but I'm hoping that I made the right decision by including the game on my personal list of most anticipated video games from the recent showcases. Don't Fret will be released on October 1st, 2026 for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 62, Midnight Horde. I did not follow the Vampire Survivors hype train when it was launched back in 2022. The gameplay loop did not interest me in the slightest, and the visual art style did not help the title's case. Midnight Horde implements 2 types of improvements that I appreciate. On one hand, the graphics, in my opinion, are improved in comparison to Vampire Survivors. On the other hand, the game allows you to alter the level design prior to initiating the action sequences. It does not only take away the repetition factor of the combat system, but it enables a sense of strategy that would contribute to a much more rewarding victory. Midnight Horde will be released this year exclusively on PC. Number 61, Hyperlane Highway. The final virtual reality experience on the list, Hyperlane Highway reminds me of my favorite VR video game of all time, Pistol Whip. At the same time, it appears to be a more chaotic version of Pistol Whip, and I'm all for it. The fast-paced enemies, the obstacles in your path, and the visual design as a whole piqued my curiosity. It's unfortunate that it will not be available on the PlayStation Virtual Reality 2 system, but I will be able to give it my undivided attention upon launch nonetheless. Hyperlane Highway will be released this year exclusively on the MetaQuest Virtual Reality system. Number 60, Mighty Cuphead Adventure. One of my favorite indie video games of all time is 2017's Cuphead. The old school presentation is beyond exceptional, the bosses are menacing and challenging, and the downloadable content only added to the wonderfully constructed experience. At the most recent Summer Games Fest, Studio MDHR, the developers behind Cuphead, released a couple of statements. First and foremost, they are working on a sequel to Cuphead. I will buy it upon release, no question about it. The other announcement came as a shocker. They are working on a side-scrolling action-adventure game called Mighty Cuphead Adventure, featuring a visual art style from the days of the Sega Master System and the beloved characters from the original Cuphead. Funny enough, the game will be released on the Sega Master System, which is quite unexpected. Can it live up to the standards that were set by Cuphead? Only time will tell. Mighty Cuphead Adventure does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch, PC, and the Sega Master System. Number 59, Maximum Thunderness. Do you miss the days of side-scrolling action games like Double Dragon and Final Fight? Well, I have good news and bad news. The bad news is that Maximum Thunderness takes away your ability to take your time throughout each and every stage, as it constantly moves you forward at a fast pace. The good news is that it incorporates awesome combat and beautifully rendered animations. I'm surprised that there are no plans at the moment to bring the title to modern consoles, but perhaps the game's financial success will change the developer's tune. Maximum Thunderness does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable exclusively on PC. Number 58, Project Fox. The prospect of an action game starring an animal has been executed in the past. Some recent examples include 2022's Biomutant, 2006's Okami, and 2013's Ghost of a Tale. Project Fox joins the previously stated lineup, but it ramps up the combat system to the point where I'm interested in following the title through its eventual launch. The graphics are slick, the movement is smooth, and there are both short-range and long-range combat abilities that the Fox can master to overcome any obstacle in his path. Can it be the indie darling that will be comparable to more well-known franchises such as Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank? If the trailer is an indication of anything, it's far from an impossibility. Project Fox does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable exclusively on PC. Number 57, Magicians: The Devil's Deal. While 2022's Ghostwire Tokyo is as close as we get to a magic-based combat system, Magicians: The Devil's Deal is hell-bent on providing us with the optimal action game where your primary tool of offense and defense is magic. The art style is impressive, the potential for combat variation is unbelievably high, and the atmosphere gives me similar vibes to 2007's BioShock. The 57th spot on this list has not ignited many serious conversations on social media, but I'm personally quite invested in the magic show that the title would like to offer. Magicians: The Devil's Deal will be released next year on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 56, Gemini X. Although I'm still starved for 2027's Mega Man Dual Override, Gemini X will help me quench my thirst as I await the return of Capcom's popular mascot. The main character resembles Mega Man, both in its design and its traversal. The levels clearly pay tribute to old-school Mega Man games and more specifically, the Mega Man X series. The bosses award you with other weapons that can target upcoming bosses' weaknesses, akin to the Mega Man series. I do not believe that Gemini X will replace the Blue Hero, but it can depict itself as a delicious appetizer to 2027's main course. Gemini X does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable exclusively on PC. Number 55, Deer and Boy. The connection between a human being and his pet can be incredibly powerful. I spoke about it in the past since I had a puppy who was in my life for 13 years. With that in mind, the recent trailer for Deer and Boy triggered a small part of me that still remembered the relationship I had with my dog. The journey of a deer and a boy across the different landscapes could be special, and I fear that it could end up in an absolute tragedy. We will see together very soon if the title has a happy ending or a finale that emits the same emotions that you felt while watching Romeo and Juliet for the first time. Deer and Boy will be released on June 23, 2026 for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Number 54, Bunraku. Take the parry-centric combat of 2019's Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Now, combine it with the party atmosphere of 2014's Towerfall Ascension and the hectic action of 1999 Super Smash Bros. The outcome of the recipe is Bunraku. If the outcome of this mix and match interests you, the 54th title on this list should be on your radar. Bunraku does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable on the PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Number 53, Anima: Song from the Abyss. I always admire video games that nail their first impressions as far as the combat system is concerned. 2012's Asura's Wrath impressed me with its anime-style action set-pieces, while 2005's Marvel Nemesis Rise of the Imperfects instantly hooked its teeth into me with its roster of characters and chaotic level design. Anima: Song from the Abyss does not have the same financial resources as those two video games, but the combat mechanics intrigued me enough to encourage me to keep an eye on it. I also like the art style that, once again, resembles a Japanese anime television show. Whenever a video game manages to incorporate both high-octane action and anime-style graphics, I am sold on its first impressions. Anima: Song from the Abyss will be released next year on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 52, Terminal War. One of the biggest tragedies for fans of 2013's The Last of Us is the absence of a multiplayer component in 2020's sequel. There were plans for a continuation of the original title's beloved Factions mode, but it was cancelled along the way for a multitude of reasons. Unfortunately, Terminal War is the closest experience we will receive to Factions until Naughty Dog decides to craft a proper iteration of Factions Part 2. The movement and shooting mechanics are similar to the Factions modes, and it will be available in early access in the near future, ensuring that the service will be rock solid at launch. If Terminal War will be successful, maybe Naughty Dog will change their mind about their cancelled Factions plans. Terminal War will be released this year as part of early access on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 51, Trick Shotters. While Bunraku caters to fans of intense, fast-paced action, Trick Shotters is a more relaxed party game that appeals to fans of all ages. If you have ever played beer pong, the concept is straightforward. You have to toss a ball, generally a ping pong ball, into a cup. However, what happens if the cup constantly moves and tries to throw its ball in your own cup? That's the principle behind the game. I do not know about you, but I can see myself enjoying it for quite some time. My only question at this moment is as follows: will it have a multiplayer component? We will find out soon enough. Trick Shotters will be released this year exclusively on PC. Number 50, Saturday Battle Manga. As a 90s kid, I remember waking up on Saturday mornings, turning on the television, and watching some classic cartoon shows. Some of my most memorable examples include Digimon, Metabots, and Yu-Gi-Oh! It's safe to say that I had a good childhood in terms of media availability. Now think about the TV shows you watched in your childhood. What if I were to tell you that there's a fighting game that features the more well-known characters from those masterpieces? Sadly, it's not what you will find with Saturday Battle Manga. Nevertheless, it's a parody of such a product, and I'm all for it. The combat looks fun, the art style is neat and retro, and each character has a unique set of moves. I'm a bit skeptical about the roster's size from the trailer, but perhaps my worries will become a thing of the past once I get my hands on the game. Saturday Battle Manga does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable exclusively on PC. Number 49, Kosenki. It's no secret that we have had a plethora of samurai and ninja featured video games in the past several years. Ghost of Tsushima and Ghost of Yotei have produced success for PlayStation, while Nine Souls turned into one of my favorite indie video games of all time. Let's also not forget about the resurgence of Ninja Gaiden and Shinobi, with Shinobi Art of Vengeance and Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. Kosenki has a rough road ahead of itself. It will attempt to place itself among those juggernaut franchises, and it will have to accomplish it on its own. In that case, why did I add Kosenki to the list? The answer is not complicated. I like the fluidity of the combat mechanics. It also allows me to visualize myself being a samurai with what appears to be a lightsaber. You cannot tell me that I'm just imagining it while checking out this footage. Kosenki does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be released exclusively on PC. Number 48, Threads of Time. The role-playing genre in the 90s and 2000s was controlled by video games that follow a turn-based combat system. Think about Final Fantasy VI. Think about Super Mario RPG. Think about Earthbound. Each of those games is highly admired by the majority of the RPG-loving gaming community. The only title that I played from those examples is Final Fantasy VI, yet I understood the hype by its conclusion. Threads of Time is another turn-based role-playing game that has old-school art style and excellent animations. Nonetheless, those two features do not contribute to the reason as to why I included the game on this list. Threads of Time piqued my interest with its coverage of different time eras. You can find yourself fighting against dinosaurs. You can be caught off guard as a giant robot ambushes you. It's a genius concept, and I am very glad that I finally encountered a title that is bold enough to cover multiple time periods. Threads of Time does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 47, Tiebreakers. Back in 2021, an indie game called Dodgeball Academia was released, and I was immediately enamored with it. As a title that resembles an anime which cements itself within the sport of dodgeball, I loved it and highly rated it. Tiebreakers is the tennis version of Dodgeball Academia, but it has one distinct difference. Aside from portraying a different sport, of course, it's a side-scrolling action title as opposed to a role-playing experience. Fighting enemies and bosses with tennis balls entices me, and I am praying that it's at least as good as Dodgeball Academia. Tiebreakers does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable exclusively on PC. Number 46, Sacrifier. Another role-playing game with an old-school art style, Sacrifier has all the positive hallmarks of a solid video game. Interesting lore, cool animations, and exciting combat mechanics. With that being said, the main concept that sets Sacrifier apart from other titles in the genre is how it addresses the effects of time on the action sequences. If you play 2016 Super Hot, you know the drill. The events that take place on screen do not move until you do. It has never been done in any of the role-playing video games that I've played, and as such, Sacrifier receives brownie points from yours truly. It will also encourage you to be more strategic with your action plan, and I'm all for experiences that are not too easy. Sacrifier will be released this year on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Number 45, Hitman Classic Trilogy Remastered. Ever since I played 2012's Hitman Absolution, I became a fan of the series. It is an interesting take, since many gamers consider Absolution to be the worst of the franchise. After I beat Absolution, I played the modern trilogy, with 2021's Hitman 3 being my absolute favorite game with the Hitman IP. Unfortunately, I never had an opportunity or incentive to play the titles that were released prior to Absolution. I know that there is an HD remaster of Hitman 2 and Blood Money, but I will admit I was not interested in checking out all the titles in the series. As part of an announcement that came out of nowhere, a remastered version of the first 3 Hitman games was announced, and at this point in time, I am intrigued. Not only will each title receive further improvements, but the first game will be available on consoles for the first time ever. I do not expect them to be as good as Hitman 3, but it will be fun to revisit what made the bald agent such an iconic character in the stealth genre of video games. Hitman Classic Trilogy Remastered will be released next year on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 44, Sojourn Past. In addition to the rhythm genre video games, I absolutely adore bullet hell action games. I may not have the skill to beat titles such as Ikaruga, but most of the iterations that I've played are wonderful. 2021's Returnal reintroduced me to the genre, and since then I played other examples such as 2011's The Binding of Isaac and 2026's Saros. Sojourn Past is an indie darling that places you in the shoes of a sword-slashing warrior who must defeat his enemies while dodging visually appealing bullets. If it has a decent length and offers a plethora of unique boss fights, Sojourn Past will be discussed once again in my upcoming video of my favorite video games from 2026, assuming that it will be launched this year. Sojourn Past will be released this year exclusively on PC. Number 43, Star Wars Zero Company. I have been a fan of Star Wars video games for years. Whether I was taking down AT Walkers in 1998's Rogue Squadron, fight Jedi and Sith Lords in 2005's Battlefront 2, or go bananas with Force powers in 2008's Force Unleashed, the IP's representation in the gaming medium has for the most part been on high-octane action. There are exceptions with 1999's Episode 1 Racer and 2012's Star Wars for Kinect, but they are a handful in an overall gigantic portfolio of action games. With all of it being said, I've never seen Star Wars tackle the strategy genre. Its absence did not make sense, since the biggest battles, particularly the Clone Wars, must have involved a lot of strategic planning. Fortunately, Star Wars Zero Company will fill that void. I have high hopes for it, even if I'm not the best player of strategy games. Aliens Dark Descent kicked my ass, but granted I tried to rush it and I need to get back to it. Anyway, I'm getting carried away. Star Wars Zero Company will be released on August 27th, 2026 for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 42, The Blood of Dawn Walker. I have waited for years to play a truly great video game with vampires. The Castlevania series is decent, but I cannot say that any of its iterations would appear in any of my Game of the Year tier lists. There are also titles such as Vampire that either do not interest me or I have not checked them out yet. The Blood of Dawnwalker, though, may change the losing streak of the subgenre. Not only do the gameplay footage and cutscenes look great, but the title is being crafted from some of the people who worked on my second favorite video game of all time, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Color me hyped. The Blood of Dawnwalker will be released on September 3rd, 2026 for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 41, Silver Pines. Earlier this year, I checked out Alan Wake 2 for the first time. I enjoyed the original Alan Wake back in 2010, but the footage that I've seen from its sequel did not particularly entice me to give it a fair shake. Fortunately, one of my viewers over on Twitch requested that I play it, and I discovered that I was worried about Alan Wake 2 for no reason. It was a worthy successor to the story of the infamous writer. All of this backstory leads us to the next entry on our list, Silver Pines. Once you watch a trailer for the upcoming horror game, you will understand why I was talking about Alan Wake 2 a few moments ago. Moreover, the upcoming title is a horror Metrovania game, and I typically give 2 thumbs up for any Metrovania experience. Therefore, it's a no-brainer purchase for yours truly. Silver Pines will be released on October 8th, 2026 for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Number 40, Fury Ball Rogue Revenge. Throughout this video, we spoke about 2 sports-centric titles. Whereas Kick is a chill experience, Tiebreakers rewards you for pummeling away at your opponents with tennis balls. Nevertheless, neither of them take you on an intense journey where you truly need to hone your skills. Fury Ball Rogue Revenge was made for fans of sports games that want more visceral and deadly gameplay mechanics. With a variety of enemies, equipable weapons, and environments, the game asks you to use a baseball bat to hit a ball in the direction of your opponent and destroy them in the process. You can control the speed and the trajectory of your circular object, which is especially important due to the fact that the ball will continuously bounce all over the arena in a fast-paced motion. Fury Ball Rogue Revenge definitely has the potential to be one of my favorite indie video games of all time if it hits every mark. Fury Ball Rogue Revenge will be released later this year, exclusively on PC. Number 39, Exodus. If you were to ask me to name my favorite trilogy of video games, the answer is clear: Mass Effect. The adventure starring Commander Shepard and his galactic squad of heroes is mesmerizing, endearing, and engaging due to its bombastic shooting mechanics and exceptional storytelling. Ignoring Mass Effect Andromeda and patiently awaiting the launch of Mass Effect 4, I have looked for a game that will scratch the itch that was left behind after Shepard's battle against the formidable Reapers. Well, I'm happy to report that all indications point to Exodus as a potential spiritual successor to Mass Effect. Cover-based gameplay, story-based choices, and silhouette depiction of space are only drops in the ocean of compliments that I can give to the title's coverage thus far. Do not get me wrong, Mass Effect 4 will be at the center of my attention whenever it decides to grace us with its presence, but Exodus could be the best Mass Effect waiting room that I could have ever asked for. Exodus will be released next year for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 38, Ember and Blade. Have you ever wondered what would happen if the Dynasty Warriors franchise produced a role-playing experience with roguelike mechanics? I would like to present to you the product of such a hypothesis, Ember and Blade. Disregarding the gorgeous visuals, the title joins the play, upgrade, repeat subgenre with its own share of positive aspects. Solid frame rate despite the hectic action, awesome boss fights, and a story that could turn out to be top-notch when compared to other roguelike video games. Although the next entry on the list is much more impressive on the visuals front, I believe that Ember and Blade will be more successful when it comes to implementing role-playing features in a roguelike video game. Ember and Blade will be released this year on the PlayStation 5 and PC. Number 37, Ding Hai, The Ocean Pillar. Another fictional action game with magic and monsters, Ding Hai, The Ocean Pillar looks incredible. The design of the environments in the background, the fast and furious gameplay mechanics, and the relentless boss fights have granted my wish for a side-scrolling / top-down version of Black Myth Wukong. It's a title that is published by a Taiwanese company called Just Dance International, and as such, I expect it to beat me to the ground similarly to Black Myth Wukong. The initial impressions from the trailer are nothing short of optimistic, and who knows, maybe it will actually turn into the side-scrolling / top-down version of one of 2024's best video games. Ding Hai The Ocean Pillar will be released this year, exclusively on PC. Number 36, Into the Unwell. Earlier in this video, I briefly referenced 2017's Cuphead and praised it for its exemplary art style. Although I was not alive prior to 1950, I treasured its successful execution of mirroring the animations of old-school cartoons. Into the Unwell follows in the footsteps of Cuphead with its visual representation, but it leans into a more forgiving experience than its older cousin. The character designs are spectacular, the music is on point, and there's a good amount of weapons and upgrades to use for experimentation. The game is only on my radar because of its unique art style, but I believe it has the potential to tickle my fancy with its other aspects. Into the Unwell will be released next year exclusively on PC. Number 35, Chronoscript, The Endless End. If you watch my content for a while, you may know that I give some leniency to video games that have a good deal of creativity. Viewfinder's puzzle mechanics from 2023 were extraordinary, while 2022's RPG Time The Legend of Wright amazed me with its visual style that places you inside of an artist's notebook. Chronoscript The Endless End appears to play like 2024's Prince of Persia The Lost Crown, but its most appealing aspect is how the entire landscape was created from an overarching character that continuously follows your every movement. Are you telling me that I can play Prince of Persia The Lost Crown with the art ideals from RPG Time The Legend of Wright? You need not say another word. The title is on my wishlist until its launch. Chronoscript The Endless End will be released in the fall of this year on the PlayStation 5 and PC. Number 34, Until Dawn 2. A sequel that I never expected to become reality. Until Dawn 2 is the sequel to 2015's Until Dawn, which features a cast of characters that travels to a cabin in the woods for a weekend and encounters both supernatural and man-made scares. The cast was quite surprising, which included Hayden Panettiere from the Heroes TV show and Rami Malek from the Mr. Robot television series. As a game, Until Dawn was a corny horror flick, but it's exactly why I had a good time with it. Until Dawn 2 is high on my list of most anticipated video games from the past series of gaming showcases, but it's placed on the 34th spot with a caveat. Not only does the story take place in a less interesting location from the title's predecessor, but it's also not made by the same team of developers, being Supermassive Games. I'm sure that I will still enjoy Until Dawn 2, but I'm not quite sold on its potential to be better than 2015's narrative-based title. Until Dawn 2 will be released next year exclusively on the PlayStation 5. Number 33, Senua. Out of all the video games that have been featured and will be included in this video, Senua worries me the most. Allow me to explain. The original Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is one of my most favorite video games of all time. The audio design is unmatched, the environmental design is stupendous, and Senua's journey through hell to save her loved one is captivating. The sequel is also excellent in its own right, even though its story is not as well kept together as its predecessor. Regardless of a preference for either game, both of them share one theme: horror. It may not be in your face like the scares of 2019's Resident Evil 2 Remake and 2012's SCP Containment Breach, but there's constant tension in both Hellblade video games. If you need further proof, check out the reveal trailer for Senua's Saga Hellblade 2.
Oh, hell no.
As far as the new Senua game is concerned, my main worry is the noticeable detachment from its horror roots and a bigger focus on action. I'm confident that I will thoroughly like my time with Senua, but I hope that it does not completely disconnect from what made Hellblade: Senua Saga and Senua Saga Hellblade 2 so special to me. It was also recently reported that Ninja Theory, the company behind the IP, is no longer with Xbox, so let us hope that another company will pick them up and allow them to treat us with Senua next year. Senua will be released next year on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 32, Gundam Rogue Orbit. I'm an absolute sucker for mechanized combat. 2016's Riggs Mechanized Combat League is one of my favorite video games on the PlayStation Virtual Reality system. Titanfall 2 is an absolute cluster of craziness with its multiplayer component, and Transformers Fall of Cybertron is well due for a remake or a remaster. While I've never watched anything related to Gundam, the recent reveal of Gundam Rogue Orbit did not do a good job with convincing me to steer away from it. The fast-paced action set pieces are present in full force, the movement is smooth as butter, and I guarantee that the bosses will be larger than life. If you have never watched Gundam but you're intrigued by the trailer, join me next year and we will find out together if Gundam deserves the incredible hype that it receives in Japan. Gundam Rogue Orbit will be released next year for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 31, Final Fantasy Resonance. Despite my lack of familiarity with the majority of Final Fantasy games, the ones that I've played were fun gaming experiences. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII's narrative is touching, Final Fantasy XVI's boss fights are out of this world, and I enjoyed my time with Final Fantasy XV, despite the harsh criticism by fellow gamers. Final Fantasy Resonance is a reimagining of the mobile title Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. At the same time, the announcement of the reshuffled narrative, as well as information that we have learned since the initial trailer, are evidence to the attempt of Resonance to be a celebration of the franchise as a whole. The turn-based combat looks cool, the graphics are wonderful, and there are appearances by key characters from the series, including but not limited to Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII, Cecil from Final Fantasy IV, and Lightning from Final Fantasy XIII. I only recently returned to the IP with 1994's Final Fantasy VI, but the trailer for Resonance was enough to keep me on the hype train of the franchise. Final Fantasy Resonance will be released on October 22, 2026 for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Number 30, Virtua Fighter Crossroads. I only playtested the Virtua Fighter series in the past. The combo system was addicting and every character was unique in his or her own right. Virtua Fighter Crossroads returns the series to the spotlight with impressively realistic fighting mechanics, but the biggest improvement is the focus on the story. If you watch the recent trailer without the knowledge that it's a Virtua Fighter title, you would be correct to assume that it's a continuation of the Yakuza or Judgment franchises. I also must commend the artist behind the specific footage of the game. It's pure eye candy. I'm hoping for the best when it comes to the return of the IP to modern consoles. Virtua Fighter Crossroads will be released next year for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 29, Stellar Blade Blood Rain. 2024's Stellar Blade was a very solid action game. The graphics were a treat for the eyes, the combat system was satisfying with a superb parry mechanic, and the soundtrack was, as expected, glorious. At the same time, the narrative never quite lived up to the title's other aspects, which is why I cannot categorize it as an industry-leading product. Stellar Blade Blood Rain claims that it's a sequel, but the main character does not appear to be the protagonist of 2024's outing, or any of the other characters that show their face throughout the adventure. Fortunately, there's no shadow of a doubt that it takes inspiration from its predecessor on multiple fronts. The presentation is as beautiful as ever, and the combat heavily emphasizes physical movements. It will be interesting to see how Blood Rain ties or does not tie itself with 2024's hack-and-slash video game. Stellar Blade Blood Rain does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable on the PlayStation 5 and PC. Number 28, Captain Tsubasa 2 World Fighters. While the previously discussed kick is predicted to be a short, one-time relaxing experience, Captain Tsubasa 2 World Fighters is a fully fledged competitive sporting game that is based on the highly popular anime featuring the motivated Captain Tsubasa. The original title that was released in 2020 was a solid experience, but it was a tad lackluster in the story department. Since the sequel has a 5-minute trailer that is completely devoted to its plot, it's possible that the sequel will be the game that will convince me to watch the anime. It certainly helps the game's case that the visuals are stunning, and the gameplay bumps up the fun factor more than any of the most recent FIFA games would only dare to attempt. I may wait for the inevitable reviews, but I'm leaning in favor of Captain Tsubasa's next representation in gaming. Captain Tsubasa 2 World Fighters will be released on August 28, 2026 for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Number 27, Resonance, A Plague Tale Legacy. 2019's A Plague Tale Innocence was a very cool experience. It takes place in medieval times and follows the adventure of a pair of siblings after they experience a horrific event in the title's introduction and attempt to escape all sorts of dangers, both fictional and non-fictional. It was a game unlike anything we have seen on the PlayStation 4 at the time, and one that I look forward to adding to my PlayStation Platinum collection. I have not had the opportunity to check out 2022's sequel, A Plague Tale Requiem, mainly because I heard that it was marked with bugs and glitches at launch. Resonance, A Plague Tale Legacy does not follow the story of the protagonist from the previously released Plague Tale games, but it does not mean that it's doomed to fail. In fact, it's a prequel that, according to the footage, has a much more engaging combat system as opposed to the preferred stealth gameplay mechanics that were highly encouraged in Innocence and Requiem. Will it tie its plot to A Plague Tale Innocence? The answer will be revealed by this coming September. Resonance, A Plague Tale Legacy will be released on August 27, 2026 for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 26, Rayman Legends Retold. Rayman Legends and I have a love-hate relationship. As a standalone title, Rayman Legends is one of the best platformers of all time. The art style is wonderful, each level is filled with collectibles and secrets, and the music stages are unmatched in terms of the fun factor in a platforming video game. With that being said, the quest to earn its platinum trophy is brutal, and I was crazy enough to get my hands on it on 3 separate occasions. After my 3rd completion, I swore up and down that I will never play Rayman Legends again. Needless to say, the reveal of Rayman Legends Retold changed my mind instantly. The visuals are vastly improved, the inclusion of non-side-scrolling levels is a breath of fresh air, and the addition of new music stages only cemented my decision to purchase it as early as possible. I'm not going to touch its platinum trophy with a 10-foot pole, but I will gladly finish it and review it. Rayman Legends Retold will be released on October 1st, 2026 for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Number 25, Persona 6. Despite my limited exposure to the series, I am a fan of the Persona series. I played all the dancing titles, but that is not what you want to hear. I also played Persona 4 Golden and Persona 5 Royal, both of which are extraordinary role-playing experiences that focus on a group of young teenagers who live the lives of students, but also fight monsters and save the world with these beings called personas. I would say that I prefer Persona 4 Golden over Persona 5 Royal, but both products are exceptional. As a result, you can only imagine my excitement for the reveal of Persona 6. The trailer alludes to themes of scares and violence, as the announcement takes place in what appears to be a cemetery. The only reason for its relatively low placement on this list is the lack of gameplay footage or plot details. Otherwise, it would have ended up in my top 10 picks for this list. Rest assured that the release of a true trailer will be met with an abundance of joy. Persona 6 does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 24, Resident Evil Code Veronica. Although I played my fair share of titles in the series, I plan to create a ranking video that focuses on the horror franchise. Therefore, I started to play the games in chronological order. I played and reviewed Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil HD Remastered, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 3 Remake, Resident Evil The Mercenaries, and Resident Evil Outbreak. Nevertheless, I've dreaded the moment I will get my hands on Resident Evil Code Veronica, as it's notorious for its difficulty and plethora of annoying sections. Thankfully, a remake of the title was announced at the most recent Summer Game Fest, which gives me an alternative instead of toughening it out with its older iteration. If Code Veronica is as well executed as fans of the franchise make it out to be, I'm in for a treat. Resident Evil Outbreak will be released next year for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Number 23, Marvel's Wolverine. Insomniac Games is the current industry-leading developer for superhero experiences. It used to be Rocksteady Studios with the Batman Arkham series, but its most recent release, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, officially surrendered the title of the best of the best to PlayStation's own Insomniac Games. 2018 Spider-Man revived the web swinger's representation in gaming after years of mediocre experiences, while 2023's sequel improved on most of its predecessor's aspects. I personally prefer the story in 2018's title, but that is just me. After 2 home runs in a row, Marvel's Wolverine immediately launched itself sky high as far as my most anticipated video games are concerned. Logan looks incredible, the abundance of blood and the game's rating from mature audiences should prevent any situation where Wolverine holds himself back from unleashing his animalistic persona, and the inclusion of other characters from the X-Men universe only contributes to my level of excitement. Furthermore, it gives leeway to the possibility that Insomniac Games will release an X-Men video game, which could potentially be the greatest superhero video game of all time. In the meantime, I will have an absolute blast with the next PlayStation 5 exclusive. Marvel's Wolverine will be released on September 15th, 2026, exclusively on the PlayStation 5. Number 22, Kingdom Hearts 4. Up until the recent Nintendo Direct, Kingdom Hearts 4 seemed to be a fever dream. I cannot lie to you, I spent years and years making fun of the series. The ridiculous dialogue, the goofy original characters, and a few of the more annoying boss fights in the first title in the franchise gave me plenty of ammunition. Nonetheless, I plan to give this series the Resident Evil treatment and record a ranking video of every Kingdom Hearts video game ever, so I learned to appreciate it over time. I have quite a few games to check out before the inevitable launch of Kingdom Hearts 4, but I'm not worried. The most up-to-date trailer, combined with my planned YouTube video, revitalized my excitement for the 4th entry. When will it be available in my hands? At this point, I will play bingo at the Senior Center when Kingdom Hearts 4 receives its midnight release. Kingdom Hearts 4 does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Number 21, Marvel Tokon, Fighting Souls. When I was a child, I used to go to my grandmother's house and hang out with my family. During my time there, my cousin introduced me to emulation, and more specifically, to a fighting game called X-Men vs. Street Fighter. The complexity of the combat, the differentiation between the characters, and the bombastic soundtrack captivated me from the get-go. Since that fateful day, I dipped my toes in various Marvel-related fighting titles, including but not limited to Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. There have been highs and there have been lows. Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, fortunately, is gradually leaning towards the former. The art style is sensational, the combat is reminiscent of the aforementioned old-school video games, and the roster includes several surprises such as Green Goblin and Carnage. The fighting game genre has not received many highlights this year, but the 21st title on this list will be the difference maker. Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls will be released on August 6, 2026 for the PlayStation 5 and PC. Number 20, Final Fantasy Revelation. When 2020's Final Fantasy VII Remake was announced as the first part of a trilogy, I had a personal gripe with the setup. Every other remake is a one-on-one reimagining of its older counterpart, but the division of the remake into 3 separate titles that cost $70 a pop was off-putting. At the same time, I could not help but be impressed by the first 2 chapters, despite having gripes with each of them. 2020's Final Fantasy VII Remake was a fantastic opening act that threw caution to the wind with its plot-based changes, but failed with regards to its lackluster side content. 2024's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth expanded the quantity of the content by an incredible margin, but it came at the cost of the main narrative's pacing. Final Fantasy Revelation, the finale to the trilogy, is advertised as the closure to Cloud's reimagined tale, and one that will be available to gamers around the world sooner than we thought. If I could express my wish list for the conclusion, I only have 2 requests. First, I want a definitive ending that makes sense. Secondly, I would like access to meaningful side content that is fantastic with its quality and directly ties into the main storyline. If these 2 requests are addressed, I will be very pleased with the ending to the rivalry of Cloud and Sephiroth. Final Fantasy Revelation will be released in the spring of next year for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Number 19, Black Jacket. One of the most well-known indie games back in 2024 is Balatro. It caters to fans of poker, but it throws many interesting elements at the player to the point that the experience is far from a typical poker match. I never gravitated towards it because I do not have the patience to learn the rules of poker and the different hands that a player can possess at any given moment. Blackjack, on the other hand, is much more straightforward. You receive 2 cards. Your goal is to reach a combined value of 21, or as close as you can get to it. If you pass the 21 threshold, game over. If your value is lower than your opponent's, say goodnight. With that being said, it's no surprise that Black Jacket will be my cup of tea more so than Balatro. It's essentially Balatro, but the core game is blackjack instead of poker. I'm currently waiting for a sale, but you can most definitely expect a review from yours truly by the end of the year. Black Jacket is currently available on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Number 18, Castlevania Belmont's Curse. There have been 2 concepts that were previously stated in the video and pertain to the 18th spot on my list: Metrovania and Castlevania. When both of these features are combined, the result in modern times is Castlevania Belmont's Curse. It's true that a Metrovania Castlevania game was available in the past with Symphony of the Night, but the harsh reality of being an adult is as follows. We have all the games in the world to play, but nowhere near enough time to thoroughly enjoy them all. Symphony of the Night missed my scope for years upon years upon years. Castlevania Belmont's Curse looks like the next entertaining Metrovania title, and if the hype is paid off, I will not mind going back to Symphony of the Night and witness what I missed. Castlevania Belmont's Curse will be released on October 15th, 2026 for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 17, Gen Atlas. One of the most infamous experiences I've had as a streamer on Twitch involved yours truly and a remake of a game from 2005 called Shadow of the Colossus. It's a breathtaking video game that pits you against increasingly impressive creatures, and you are asked to climb them, find their weak spots, and kill them. As I approached the finale of my adventure with 2018's remake, I committed a shameful sin and expressed rage because of the title's camera throughout my final climb. It was a disappointing situation from my perspective, but it received the opposite reaction from my viewers at the time. Shadow of the Colossus is an achievement of storytelling, even though I lost my marbles in the last 5 minutes of my experience. The game's developers have been hard at work since the release of Shadow of the Colossus. They launched 2016's Last Guardian, but it was received with poor reception primarily because of the giant creature's non-ideal artificial intelligence. We have not heard a peep from them between 2018 and 2026, but it all changed in the past couple of weeks with the latest installment to their catalog of games, Gen Atlas. It's a mixture of Shadow of the Colossus' gameplay with mechanized creatures, as opposed to the more creative roster of bosses from 2005's title. I'm certainly intrigued by the game, and I will make sure that I do not send another controller to Sony Heaven during my time with Gen Atlas. Gen Atlas does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 16, Blood Message. We have talked about the overabundance of samurai games that are available to gamers around the world. Nevertheless, there is a difference between quality and quantity. The availability of numerous samurai-featured video games does not directly indicate that the existence of wonderful titles starring a male or female samurai is out of the realm of possibility. Blood Message is inserting itself in the collection of games within the hack-and-slash subgenre, and the reveal trailer is fantastic. Realistic graphics, cinematic combat, and a plot that presents itself as a treat for fans of samurai-based lore are all I need to kickstart the excitement train on its way to the video game's launch. Blood Message is full of potential and has yet to alarm me with any red flags. Blood Message does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 15, Two Fights, Two Tight Spaces. One of my favorite series of action films is John Wick. Although the story device itself lacks in complexity, the lore is surprisingly deep as it pertains to a dude who goes on a killing spree for the majority of each of the 4 films. I have wanted a dedicated John Wick video game for the past decade or so. 2019's John Wick Hex was a great game, but the recently announced John Wick title by Saber Interactive will fulfill my wish. There was nothing wrong with John Wick Hex, but it was turn-based as opposed to a third-person action experience. Two Fights, Two Tight Spaces has no connection to the John Wick IP, but its gameplay is somewhat identical to John Wick Hex, for better or worse. As far as I'm concerned, there's a reason as to why it's placed in the 15th spot on my list. Two Fights, Two Tight Spaces is currently available exclusively on PC as part of Early Access, with no official 1.0 release date as of the recording of this video. Number 14, God of War Lofi. Even with the nonsensical backlash that the newest iteration in the long-lasting franchise has received since its unveil, God of War Lofi's potential is enormous. If you played 2018's God of War and 2022's God of War Ragnarok, you have heard from the grapevine that the wife of the all-powerful Kratos is not the warrior that should be taken lightly. She gave the Leviathan axe to the titular father of the past two video games. She fought head-to-head with Thor, the son of Odin. As a fighter that leans towards magic-based combat, the action set pieces of Faye, the wife of Kratos, appears to be very entertaining. The two antagonists of the footage that was shown in the most recent state of play are derived from two completely different mythologies, and there have been rumors that we may encounter previously defeated bosses from the Greek mythology and Norse mythology. My only criticism of the announcement is the magical cube, but I will hold my reservations until I complete Faye's multiverse journey. God of War Lofi does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable exclusively on the PlayStation 5. Number 13, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4. The Call of Duty franchise has been on a decline for a very long time. There were sparks of hope in the past several years with 2020's Black Ops Cold War and 2017's World War II, but many of the entries like Black Ops 4 and Infinite Warfare have only enhanced the negative reception from the gaming community. I tried to check out the first mission of 2024's Black Ops 6, but the experience simply felt lifeless, and I ended my time with the playthrough. Modern Warfare 4 does not try to move mountains and revolutionize the series, but its campaign is the sole feature that gives me hope for my own personal enjoyment of the latest Call of Duty game. The tension between North Korea and South Korea is an international concern in modern times, and as such, I am fascinated to see how Infinity Ward, the developers behind Modern Warfare 4, will guide us to the hypothetical world-ending confrontation. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4 will be released on October 23, 2026 for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Number 12, Gears of War E-Day. Although I would like to see a conclusive ending to the narrative that started with 2016's Gears of War 4 and continued with 2019's Gears 5, Gears of War E-Day takes an exciting route and presents itself as a prequel to the original Gears of War from 2006. The most anticipated aspect about the newest entry in the series is not the combat, which looks top-notch. It is not the graphical design, which pushes the impressive visuals beyond the already remarkable art style of Gears 5. As a matter of fact, I'm mostly hyped for the backstory on the relationship between Marcus and Dom, two of the main protagonists from the original Gears of War trilogy. In addition, I'm curious to observe the implementation of horror elements, since it's the first time that humanity would encounter the terrifying Locust. With regards to the title's multiplayer component, I cannot wait to check out the Horde Siege mode. It's a 12-player Horde mode, and the footage in the recent trailer is deliciously intense. Will Gears of War E-Day be the best game in the franchise? It certainly has a chance. Gears of War E-Day will be released on October 6, 2026 for the Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 11, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin. The developers known as Platinum Games are synonymous with spectacular, action-based gameplay. Astral Chain provided a reason to purchase a Nintendo Switch, and Nier Automata's plot will ask you to question your own life's purpose by the conclusion of the third playthrough. I have always had confidence in the ability of Platinum Games as developers, which is why I was giddy with joy when their logo was shown on screen during the announcement of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin. The bad news is that we were not fortunate enough to watch an ounce of gameplay. The good news is that the video game is based on an alternate reality where Raphael becomes a menacing anti-hero. If you have not read the comic books with the same title, do yourself a favor and add them to your collection. I promise you that you will not regret your decision. Needless to say, the mix of Platinum Games and a badass narrative can only result in a positive outcome. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles The Last Ronin does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S, Xbox Series X, and PC. Number 10, Ill. We are down to my top 10 most anticipated video games from the past 2 weeks of showcases, and I have some bangers in store for you. First up, we have a horror title that could turn into the next Dead Space. The gruesome nature of the gameplay is horrific, in a good way. The graphics take advantage of the current generation hardware. The mystery behind the enemies and why they exist can go in infinite directions. I do not have any complaints. As long as it does not have the slow pace of the Metro series, you better prepare yourself for a next generation experience. Ill will be released next year for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 9, Crossfire. When it comes to third-person action games, an argument can be made about which title has the best cover-based mechanics. A popular response is the Gears of War series, especially with the exploitable wall bouncing. However, my personal pick as the video game with the best cover-based mechanics has remained the same for the past decade: Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Future Soldier from 2012. All you need to do is play the first 2 missions of the title, and you will understand my biased pick. Crossfire tickles me in the best possible way for 2 specific reasons. On the one hand, it's created by past developers from 2 well-known companies, Naughty Dog and Infinity Ward. On the other hand, the cover system in Crossfire seems to be organic, natural, and standard setting. These 2 aspects do not take away from other fantastic features that were shown in the trailer, such as solid third-person shooting mechanics and awesome visuals. If Crossfire's cover mechanics are better than the ones shown in Ghost Recon Future Soldier, the title will automatically be a Game of the Year contender. Crossfire does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 8, Acts of Blood. As far as combat is concerned, no video game that I've played has the impact, intensity, and fluidity as 2022's Sifu. Every single punch and kick is felt through your controller and thrown with a solid purpose. Every tossed bottle, high or low parry, and Matrix-like dodges are beautiful to witness. It's a masterpiece that I highly doubt will ever be topped. With that in mind, let us shift focus to the 8th title on the list, Acts of Blood. While it was only shown in a mere 15-second clip, its potential to be in the same conversation as Sifu is almost certain. The combat looks practically identical, the inclusion of parkour is welcomed, and the plethora of weapons at your disposal is a perk to any fan of action games. We are possibly nearing its release, so it's only a matter of time until we answer the number 1 question. Is Acts of Blood as good as Sifu, better, or worse? Acts of Blood will be released in the summer of this year for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 7, The Wolf Among Us 2. Oh boy, where do I start with this game? As a gamer whose favorite video game of all time is a telltale, story-centric experience, it cannot be a shocker that The Wolf Among Us 2 will be on my list of the most anticipated video games. The original Wolf Among Us of 2013 is a well-executed reimagining of a crime drama, featuring beloved fairy tale characters like Beauty and the Beast, Snow White, and the Big Bad Wolf. By the time the credits rolled on its 5th episode, your jaw dropped, as you wondered about the probable outcome of Bigby Wolf's tale. Back in 2019, the sequel was teased at the Game Awards. Even though we received a couple of trailers since then with false release dates, it was quite on the Western front that is Telltale. Shockingly enough, The Wolf Among Us 2 was reintroduced to the public at this year's Summer Game Fest, and the grin that I had on my face would make the Joker from Batman stare in awe. Nevertheless, I cannot place it higher on my list until I receive a concrete release date, with a day and month. Once the information is in my hands, it may very well be boosted to the number 3 spot on my list. The Wolf Among Us 2 will be released next year for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Number 6, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. My favorite Assassin's Creed game of all time is the 4th entry, Assassin's Creed Black Flag. The setting is pitch perfect, the protagonist, Edward Kenway, is charismatic and memorable, and the ability to set sail with your gang of pirates and sing songs while placing yourself in a collision with other pirate ships is the most fun I've ever had with an Assassin's Creed game. The second the remake was shown at the Summer Game Fest, the inclusion of the remake on this list was the easiest decision I could have made. Every aspect is improved, whether we are talking about the facial animations, the lighting, or the combat. The cherry on top is its release date, which will arrive within the next couple of weeks. I typically avoid the addition of remasters and remakes on my top tier list for games of the year, but I may need to make an exemption with Black Flag. Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced will be released on July 9th, 2026 for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 5. Persona 4 Revival. We spoke earlier about Persona 6 and its semi-low placement on the list due to the lack of gameplay footage. Well, Persona 4 Revival is not only a remake of my favorite Persona title in the series, but the recent footage from the Xbox Game Showcase has plenty of in-game clips to quench my thirst. The cutscenes akin to Persona 5 Royal are particularly gorgeous, the soundtrack is as iconic as ever, and the narrative, if you have not played the 2008 original or its 2012 remaster, will catch you off guard in all the best possible ways. A remake of a somewhat perfect game? I'm ready to experience greatness. Persona 4 Revival will be released on February 18th, 2027 for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 4. Halo Campaign Evolved. I've not thought I would see the day that Halo would make its way on a PlayStation console. As a franchise that is primarily exclusive on Microsoft's devices, it is mind-boggling, albeit inevitable in today's age, that titles which used to be exclusive to one device make their way to their competitors. While Xbox announced that exclusivity will be judged on a case-by-case basis and the Halo franchise may never appear on a Sony device again, I'm excited to see a return to form for Halo with a remake of its first entry. It may not include any multiplayer components, but the footage that we have seen from its recent coverage and its low asking price encouraged me to forgive Microsoft for their notable absence. The visuals are massively improved from its 2001's counterpart. The addition of new skulls is an exciting feature that can increase or decrease the game's difficulty, and the new missions will hopefully expand the narrative that was initially introduced in Halo Combat Evolved. I would love to earn this Platinum Trophy, but I'm scared of the legendary difficulty, so we will see if I take on that challenge. Halo Campaign Evolved will be released on July 28th, 2026 for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. Number 3. Attack on Titan 3. Whether you ask me today or tomorrow to name my favorite anime, my answer will always tiptoe between two options: Dragon Ball Z and Attack on Titan. Dragon Ball Z has been my top choice for decades, but I recently watched Attack on Titan and I fell in love with it. The animation, the soundtrack, the voice acting, the narrative, the action, all of them are spectacular and comparable to Dragon Ball Z on any day of the week. If you're interested in Dragon Ball Z video games, make sure to check out my top 100 favorite Dragon Ball Z games of all time video. As for Attack on Titan, its catalog has never made an impression on me. The only game that turned my head in its direction is 2018's Attack on Titan 2, but the gameplay was extremely repetitive. After 8 long years, the sequel, Attack on Titan 3, has been revealed and it looks absolutely scrumptious. The combat has a more fast-paced fluidity to it, the cinematics are as stunning as ever, and it's awesome that the story will cover the entirety of the anime. We are supposed to receive more information about the game on July 1st of this year, so I'm crossing my fingers that the release date will be here shortly. Attack on Titan 3 does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Number 2. Stage Tour. As a spoiler to an upcoming video, you will soon come to realize that my favorite rhythm-based gaming franchise is Guitar Hero. I'm currently in the process of playing through the entire series, and a ranking video of every entry in the catalog will be in your horizon sooner than you think. However, there's a question in play. Why did I randomly decide to go through each and every of the 20 plus Guitar Hero video games? The honest answer is the second pick on this list, Stage Tour. What appears to essentially be a revival of the Guitar Hero IP, Stage Tour is the next rhythm-based experience that is based on the Guitar Hero series, and I cannot tell you how happy I am to finally hear something from this new game. My expectations cannot be higher, as it's currently being worked on by previous developers and fans of various rhythm-based titles, and its features and songs are cherry-picked by both industry insiders and content creators of the rhythm genre. The most recent reveal of the first 5 songs in the playlist is as good of an indication as any that Stage Tour is in good hands. Unless it's delayed to next year, my Game of the Year for 2026 may already be cemented in stone. Stage Tour will be released in the fall of this year for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Number 1, Alien Isolation 2. Alien Isolation is one of my favorite horror video games of all time. I am enamored with the Alien IP. I watched all of the films, which follows the ranking you see on screen at the moment. I've played numerous games that featured the almighty Xenomorph, with my favorite experiences being the aforementioned Isolation, Aliens vs. Predator, and Aliens Fireteam Elite. Although I concur that Aliens vs. Predator is my favorite experience with the Xenomorphs, Alien Isolation is the most special product for yours truly. The atmosphere is second to none, the immortal Xenomorph is terrifying, and its AI constantly messes you up and keeps you on your toes. You may think that you are safe under a table, inside of a locker, or after using a flame-based weapon. The alien does not care. It will be on your case when you least expect it. The first Alien Isolation was a fantastic video game, but the pacing was not perfect by any means. I appreciate the break at the halfway point, but the sense of dread disappeared the moment the Xenomorph was not around you. Alien Isolation 2 has the potential to not only be my favorite horror game ever, but easily the best game with the Xenomorph. The transition to an open environment is genius, and the developers already have a base for the Xenomorph AI, which means that it will only be improved with the sequel. Out of all the video games that were announced in the past couple weeks, Alien Isolation 2 is easily my most anticipated game. I need to get my hands on it expeditiously. Alien Isolation 2 does not have a current release date, and it's scheduled to be playable on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Well folks, that's the end of the video. Thank you very much for checking it out. What is your most anticipated video game for the past couple weeks of showcases? Is there a game that I did not cover? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Till next time, have a great day or evening wherever you are. My name is AS, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.